Hello, my loves. So the retrogrades are retrograding, and we are also preparing to move into eclipse season. With this, I've sort of noticed it's reminding me of some of the things we were working on back at the previous eclipse season last March, 6 months ago or so. And there's been multiple topics sort of swirling and coming up. And part of it, one of the main things that's been coming up quite deeply is some frozen, like inner child essence. And it's connecting back with what we spoke about last week around feeling that sort of like getting in trouble energy. And it feels like there's quite a bit of dynamics coming up with people kind of thinking back to when they were kids and dynamics that they had with their parents. And I'm finding this is quite common, one with parents who are still alive, but there also seems to be a secondary pocket where, say, you have one parent living and one that has passed on, or your parents have passed on, that you might notice that the one that is passed on, your dynamic with them is coming more present during this time as well. So it's this inner child parent dynamic where part of the inner child is frozen in sort of a I might get in trouble energy. This is also connecting very deeply with a suppressed communication energy, like where part of our systems or your system, depending if you're resonating with this message, may feel like your voice, your words, your communication is suppressed, unheard, unwarranted, unwanted. Like even if you tried to express things, you were not met with receptivity from your parents or other adults. And in fact, maybe you even got in trouble for attempting to share or voice or your concerns. And even as children, a lot of times it's hard to put words to what we're feeling because we might not actually understand what we're feeling fully, let alone have the capacity to articulate it to someone else. This also really can play out into the masculine and feminine dynamics that we see as well. And usually, what dynamics you had with your family, with your parents, will translate to your relationships, especially in a romantic dynamic. So there's a bunch of these all sort of interweaving together, but it's like breaking free from the suppressed energy, reparenting yourself, holding yourself, and um, really just allowing yourself to hold yourself with whatever parts of you might be going through these energies of like feeling like you're going to get in trouble. That's a big one. It feels like people, there's a lot of shifts happening right now. Like I talked about this, I think, on my Patreon, where a lot, especially feminines, are like getting new jobs or expanding their businesses or going back to school. Like there's sort of like this newness, like this next leveling up energy coming. And as those moves are being made and the changes are happening, I think that we are actually extracting more and more and more and more out of the matrix and the old way of being. So as you're moving out of the old dynamics, whether it was family or society or work, right? Like if you're any of the old or the past templates or structures, systems, right? As you're extracting out of those and you are becoming more free and more sovereign, those old patterns or programmings actually come up in the system. So even if you in particular were never really scared or nervous about moving forward or moving how you need to move, when you're making these bigger moves out of the old systems and out of the matrix, you might have these thoughts and repeating feelings or mindsets coming up, or even anxiety in your physical system, in your nervous system, almost like a ancestral muscle memory coming up in a way that's sort of like where it was felt in the family line, in the genetics, where some of the ancestors maybe did get in trouble. So as we're making these bigger moves into the bigger containers, right? Because we're ready to expand, those old roots and the old tethers are coming up to clear out. And this is actually bringing me to a next and deeper layer that I wanted to give you as some food for thought. So, a lot of these conversations that I'm having that are connected back to the inner child and the parts of the inner child that have been frozen, were these patterns that started exceedingly young. And some people are like remembering back to like always feeling frozen or never speaking up, almost like being born with some of these patterns in place. Yes, some of it can be ancestral, but there's actually also a growing amount of people that I have connected with that these patterns that they are now thawing out from their childhood actually stem back not only ancestral, but to other lives, sometimes even multiple lives where they experienced the suppression. This has actually also been coming up with physical ailments and illnesses. Like people literally had like an injury as a little kid, and it was a reflection of an injury or a way that they passed away in another life, sort of like following them into this incarnation. So there's multiple layers that the collective is dealing with right now. But this is actually a good sign because it feels like we're getting more and more to the roots of the bigger patterns, the bigger dynamics of the codependency, of the suffering, and of the trauma, so that we can stabilize and embody more and more into the present and really stabilize into the new templates like we've been talking about. Okay. So, really quick, for those of you, I can't remember if I announced this or not, but I do have some new sessions on my schedule that are connecting with deeper embodiment into your own consciousness and also past life regressions. I am also expanding. I'm not only going to be having a Patreon membership, but I actually do now have a membership here on YouTube. And I posted one video on there and I'm going to start posting from here on out. For those of you who really just want to stay on YouTube and not go to another platform, that's an option now. And then for those of you who are not into any like membership type of things, I'm also going to be offering the individual videos on my website. So I was already doing that with the recorded sessions, but now I'm going to do it with the individual videos. So if you want to just kind of pick and choose which video you want to watch, those will now be available. I'll put all that information in the pinned comment. And I did actually open up my schedule this week and next week. If any of you are interested in connecting, I would love to do that with you as we're moving deeper into this retrograde season and coming up on the eclipses. These eclipses coming up in September feel quite big, especially with one landing right on the equinox. And of course, we also have one right before the 9/9 portal. So this next few weeks is sort of really, I don't know, the energy for me, I'll just share what I've been sensing. It feels like this next week or two leading up to the eclipse is sort of this like cleaning house, cleaning now that we've expanded into our next size container, right? You've leveled up and now we're cleaning up what was there, right? Because you've created more space for yourself. So it opened up more of your consciousness. And so now you're able to go clean up more and also retrieve more and also access more, right? So you have access to more and more of who you are through this process. And it feels like, oh yeah, I wanted to touch on this because there have also been some intense physical symptoms at times. And I've seen this with a few people, so I wanted to acknowledge it in case some of you might be experiencing this. Of course, you know you always have to connect with and support yourself in whatever way is necessary. But there's also been these sort of pockets. It seems like it's coming in like very swiftly, lasting about a day, and then totally like waning and it's gone like the next morning. Sort of like a big, intense, almost like ascension flu type of experience. Some people are actually feeling like they have the flu, like that intense, physically, cold chills, all that aches, and the next day they're fine. Some people are having like heart palpitations or feeling dizzy and just having to lay and rest and then getting up the next day and totally fine. It feels like when we're letting ourselves actually rest and relax, which feels important as you are called, it's allowing for this reset. And so when that reset happens, it may feel very physical, almost like a ascension flu. I feel like it can move swiftly when you actually lean into it and let it process. Take care of yourself, rest, resource, do whatever you need to do, right? Of course, by all means, take care of yourself, but like let it sort of run its course. It seems to move quickly. And so we're in a lot. Like, it seems like we're definitely in a lot. I know I've been more quiet than normal because there has been so many things processing. My intention is from here forward to come on and share more now that it feels like I'm sort of understanding a bit more of what is happening because I myself was in the midst of this transformation. So we're just going to keep letting it roll out. And what I just feel like I'm going to just open up. I'm going to pull out a couple cards. I haven't been on with you guys in a while. So I'm just going to see what wants to come through from your higher selves, what will be the most beneficial for any of you here with me, and getting into a groove. I don't want to even say back into a groove because I feel like this feels like something new, right? I know we're in retrograde. I know we're dealing with things from the past, but we're also simultaneously embodying into the new. And so there's elements of being back, but there's also elements of being present and in the new. So I'm just gonna see what wants to come through. Dances on one foot balancing act. It sort of feels like what I was just saying. Like we're in the midst of this transformational process where we have one foot in the new and one foot still kind of dancing and cleaning up the old. This also is bringing to me this awareness that I said that we've, been growing into a bigger container within ourselves in what is coming to me is that many have been sort of like breaking out of the cocoon of the last version of them. So even though the most recent version of you was a transformed version of you, you are also now becoming another transformed version of yourself. And so if you're feeling some of that energy where you're sort of processing the past and then thinking about the future and then also like just really stabilizing in the present and feeling like you're balancing quite a bit. This stabilization point in this process actually seems to be very important for stabilizing in the new foundation. It's part of that. Some of it also even has this sense for those of you here connected to the masculine feminine collective, has that sense of how it can feel when you're coming out of like the soul merge or the bubble love type of phase. And then all of a sudden, you're back in a whole other reality and you're trying to restabilize yourself after a huge energetic activation, right? It's like you're getting to know yourself all over again. There is an element of this occurring. And also, I wanted to touch on this more of this is that there's like a purification process, a deeper purification process happening to and that balancing act and this purification process into your next level is not something to be rushed because it's through the embodiment, it's through learning how to stabilize, it's learning how to hold yourself through the changes that actually supports that capacity to grow, right? What you're doing is not just stabilizing and growing for this season, but you're training your system to understand that transformation is a part of life and that we're always learning and growing. And that is a big part of the ageless codes. That is a big part of our capacity to live longer and healthier and more present, right? It's our capacity to sort of be reborn on a pretty regular basis, right? So that we're not getting stuck into timelines or energies or experiences that no longer fulfill our growth, right? Because that's kind of what can happen in the old templates is you get on a timeline, you get locked into these circumstances, and then if you feel trapped in those circumstances, you might feel like you start to wither or feel unwell or wane because your body, your soul wants to keep growing. It wants to keep transforming, right? I believe deeply we are meant to keep evolving and growing and learning and expanding and transforming. And it doesn't have to be every day, right? We have our smaller pockets and our bigger pockets, but you get what I mean. But learning how to stabilize, to be stable and safe and secure in yourself while simultaneously evolving and transforming is a magical superpower, right? It's what you guys have been training for, right? Embodying your higher self, learning how to stabilize even in the uncomfortable things, transforming the shadows, tempering your energies in the extremes, and still being able to hold stable within yourself. This is the magic of the ascension, right? It's not that experiences or emotions are going to go away. It's how are we going to react to them? How are we going to respond? How graceful are we navigating the instability, right? Are we becoming so strong within ourselves that we're actually able to dance like a ballerina on one foot, even when everything around us is unstable, right? Finding that stability within, in your physical core, in your emotional core, your mental core, your spiritual core. When you find that strength and that stability within yourself, within your physical home, your body, right? Not just your muscles, yes, your muscles, but your emotional integrity and mental integrity, right? Your spiritual integrity, all of those strengths are what sustain the process, right? It sustains your evolution, your strength into all of who you are, your embodiment, and holding more and more of your higher true essence while staying in physical form. And then allowing that to translate to your sacred union partnerships, to your sacred businesses, to your sacred purpose, and your relationships with your family and your community and your children in X, Y, and Z, you name it, right? This is what we're here for. We're learning how to balance it, how to harmonize it, even when it's in the mid process. And I think it's also important. Yes, you will feel more and more of your system land. You will feel more stability. You will feel more of those parts of your surroundings that you can relax into. And then other areas of your life can evolve and grow, right? You are training yourself for life in a whole new way, for longevity, my loves, for the long run, right? Not just the surface, immediate satisfaction of one and done, right? This is about playing the long game of sustainability, of longevity. Okay, my loves. All right, I'm going to leave it there. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope you're doing well. I would love to hear from you. Again, I'll put all my info in the pinned comment, and I hope to see you soon. Take care. Much love.